breakfast with Bob.
And Poncho Man, everybody. Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Kona and Huggo's on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas as fuels go longer. HOKA Let's Fly, deboer wetsuits, Forum Smart Swim goggles, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand, Quintana Roo, Premium Plus Sports, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Olympic silver medalist, Ironman World Champion. More importantly, Paralympic gold medalist, Michellie Jones. How you doing, Michellie?
I am doing fantastic, Bob. Thank you.
And I can't go, I mean, the other stuff is ITU Hall of Fame, Triathlon Australia Hall of Fame, Xterra World Champion, two-time ITU World Champion. You've got, your bio is like goes 12 pages. But
well, you know, sometimes that's the way it is. And
I know.
I love it. You know, it's like, it's amazing when you actually get a chance to look back at your career and you go, wow, I actually did do all that. That's pretty cool.
Well, and for me, it's like we met at the beginning of your career.
Yes.
1990, Tahiti.
Yes.
You outsprinted Beatrice Mouton, I think it was. Is that yes? Or Isabel, one of them. Isabel, to win that race.
Yes.
And then you came to San Diego, and you had a $500 Ford Maverick with the roof coming off.
Yep.
You were in a condo with a number of other Carol Montgomery.
Column shift.
What was that?
Column shift.
Column shift, a 3 on the tree. That's
Most
exactly
people wouldn't
right.
even know what that is.
I know. And I mean, really, when somebody is trying to make a living as a triathlete from Australia, it's not like you can go to the States for a week or go to Europe for a week. It is a commitment. You basically have to upload your life and move to the U.S. like you did. How scary was that?
Well, you know, it's also very, very different now because, like, it's very more international. So when I first started racing, you know, I wanted to come and race against the best people in the world, and it was in the US.
Right.
And then, you know, back then it didn't matter that I'd won, like, I think, like 23 races in a row. It didn't matter. It's what I was doing on US soil, not what I did in Australia. So it's like restarting your career. So that's scary in itself. And then, you know, trying to get sponsors, and lucky you had belief in my ability and got me my first sponsor. But yeah, you know, that's all what it's about, you know. That's what a true champion does, right? They're always trying to put themselves out there, find new goals, challenge themselves.
So you have a unique perspective on what we see here, because a lot of people don't realize that we had a women's series in the U.S. called the Danskin Women's Triathlon Series that was incredibly successful. BMW was a major sponsor. There was, I mean, when you went to that series, I think you didn't win your first race and second race and then won like 20 in a row over the next 3 years, and won a couple of BMWs and got a Metric sponsorship and eventually Reebok, and everything turned around. But those were well-attended races, a couple of thousand women doing those races.
Yeah, I think the biggest field we ever had was maybe like 2,500.
Yes.
So like absolutely amazing. And that was back in the 90s. And then, you know, the progression of the sport in the fact that, you know, then the ITU circuit, we were racing on Saturday, the men would race on a Sunday. You get to the Olympics, the women are center stage. At Sydney 2000, we were the first medal event of the Olympic Games.
Yes, you were.
So, you know, triathlon has had like a strong, rich history of making sure that the women are presented up front, so to speak.
And what was fascinating about being there in Sydney, you guys, Australia, and I don't know how if you were expected to sweep for both men and women, but they certainly were expecting to get a lot of hardware coming out of there. Right?
Oh, yeah, because like the year before at the World Championships, we'd pretty much finished first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So just to make the Australian team for the Sydney 2000 Olympics was very cutthroat, and you basically had to peak twice, maybe actually 3 times, because we had 2 test events to try to qualify, and if you won, then you automatically got selection. Otherwise, it came down to discretion.
Which is always a nightmare.
Yes, I am a current Olympic selector for the Australian team, so I know what it's like both sides now.
So when you are in that race, and you've done a lot of racing up to that point, have you ever been in front of a crowd that loud?
Oh my goodness, I've never been in a race before you haven't even started and the crowd is going absolutely nuts and just going Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. And it was just amazing, and the emotion, and that's what a lot of these women are going to face on Saturday. it's the unexpected emotion that this is a world championship. Yeah, I've done an Ironman before, but this is next level. And there's nothing so special about crossing that Ironman finish line. And I remember how emotional I was at the Olympics, and I looked up into the crowd, and my twin sister was there, and she started crying, and then I started crying, and then my whole family was there, and they were all crying, and it's like I'm crying, and it's like this is the Olympics. And then you get to Ironman, and, you know, it's a 2-hour race to a 9-hour race for me at that time. And, you know, for a lot of the age group women out there, it's going to be a little bit longer, and it's such an emotional experience, but it's life-changing, and you will remember that finish line for the rest of your life.
So you get the silver in a sprint finish in the first ever Olympic triathlon.
Yes.
And one of the things that you've always said, it'd be very easy, especially a number of years later when Bridget McMahon, who won the gold, went positive for EPO. It'd be very easy to say, where's my gold medal? I deserve that. But you were always, it was always for you, I won the silver that day. I got the very best out of myself, and I'm content, I'm happy.
Yeah, and, you know, I look back now and I go, look how awesome my destiny's been since that. Would it have been different if I had won the gold medal? And it would have been.
Do you think if you won the gold, do you think you maybe
walk
away?
I don't think I would have walked away, but, you know, you just don't know. But I know that, like, definitely getting second, I was like, you know what? It's a silver medal. This race happens every 4 years. You can't predict how you're going to be every 4 years.
Right.
And then the heartbreak of not making my second team when, you know, I'd won on the course.
You won the test event in Athens.
Yeah, I mean, I have a strong history, right? How many times have I won Alcatraz? Like
all the tough
eight
races.
Times. Chicago, like
10.
Yeah. And then you've got St. Anthony's Triathlon back in the day. I've won that, I think, 7 or 8 times. So I always had this strong history that gave me confidence. If I did well in a race, I always knew I would do well in a race.
Right.
Because for some reason, those races just suited me. And just the heartbreak of, like, knowing what it felt like to go to the Olympics, knowing what it felt like to be on the podium, and then having that opportunity to try to go back and, you know, go a little bit better, sort of taken away. And then it's like, well, you know, I love triathlon. I don't want to quit. And it was just lucky enough that Paulie Newby-Fraser was willing to take me on and take me down the Ironman path. And everyone still reminds me to this day, remember the time when you said you'd never, ever do an Ironman?
I was standing with you.
I know.
We were watching, and I think it was 93. Was it 93? Mark Allen's?
I think so.
Mark Allen's 5th Ironman World Championship.
I know, it's scary. Don't go to the finish line.
No.
If you want to do an Ironman.
Mark had just won his 5th title.
Yeah.
And he's on a stretcher. His feet are coated with blood. He's got an IV, and his body is spasming. And we're standing in front of the medical tent, and you looked at me and said, never. I will never do this silly race. It's
well, you
too
know,
far.
It's not even that. It's like I didn't have my why. You know, we've talked a lot about like what your why is, and like I was doing so well at short course, absolutely loved going as hard as I could, and that distance terrified me, to be honest. So when people say they're scared about doing Ironmans, or they're scared about this race, I put my hand up exactly the same way. It's like, it is terrifying. I mean, but, you know, you prepare yourself and you have your why. When I came here to do my second ever Ironman, because of course
you had done Florida.
I did Florida Ironman and I won there, and I punched my ticket to Kona. So when I came here, this was going to be the second time I'd ever raced an Ironman.
Right.
And it was scary. Even though I'd done an Ironman, this is Kona. There is so much mystique. And this is not an easy race. You got to suck it up, buttercup, a lot. A lot out there. I mean, obviously, when you win a race, you remember a lot of the highs, but there's a lot of lows. And you know, I came into this race not even fully confident because I fractured my hip at the escape from Alcatraz Triathlon. So I was literally water running the entire time. So here I was preparing for my second Ironman, my second ever marathon, and I was just doing it on aqua jogging.
Right. But you got a nice lead.
Yes, and then Natasha caught me, mile 18. Every time I run in the Energy Lab, now I have like 3 memories of the Energy Lab. My first year I was here, led all the way until Natasha got me at the top. The second time, of course, that was the year that I won in 2006, leading the entire way. And I just wanted to get to that point in the Energy Lab and not see anyone, and that's what happened.
Yes.
And then, of course, last year I was running in the Energy Lab and I broke my collarbone.
What the hell? I don't even remember that. Oh, I remember seeing you afterwards.
Yeah, afterwards, like the first day I was in Kona, I went running and twisted my ankle and did the tuck and roll, heard the snap, and broke my collarbone.
Oh, my God.
So there's my 3 memories in the energy lab.
So you are one of the few people who was there when we first started CAF.
Yes.
San Diego Triathlon
Yep.
Challenge, 1994.
Yep.
In October, the event we started for Jim McLaren.
Yeah.
And now
And
we're
I knew Jim very well.
Did you?
Yeah, I got to meet him several times. So yeah.
And yeah, when he became quadriplegic, you were there.
Yeah.
And you've been there pretty much the majority of the years, been involved in some way, shape, or form. 30 years later, $159 million raised, 44,000 grants. But how connected was that to you deciding to guide Katie Kelly at the 2016 Paralympics?
Well, definitely, having seen the impact that the Challenge Athletes Foundation had on these athletes was absolutely amazing. And, I've got the opportunity over the years to coach a few
Yes.
of the athletes as well. I mean, here in Kona, of course, Sarah Reinerson at 40, she wanted to go faster than when she did it at 30. And we checked that box off. So that was super exciting to see her cross the finish line and then get the opportunity to help somebody else live their Olympic dream. Absolutely amazing. I mean, when Coach Corey rang me up and said, Michellie, would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah. It's like I'd never ridden a tandem. I'd never done any guiding. But it was like, the opportunity to share my experience and my knowledge with somebody else. And I feel that's what I've been doing for the last couple of months as we lead into this race, just feeding all that information that I've learned over the years. And it's so special to be able to give back to the sport.
So the other day I met another Michellie.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
And I love the way they spell it.
I know.
Because you've grown
My
up.
My parents were such bad smellers. It's like forever. It's like Michelle, Michellie, Michellie. It's Michellie. But, if you call me Michelle, I will definitely still talk to you.
So they spell it M-C-K-E-E-L-E-Y or something.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to figure out.
Yeah.
But they were named after you.
Yes.
Because
I've met her several times.
They were pregnant, right, in Sydney.
Yeah.
That is the coolest
How awesome
thing.
is that? And that's another thing that, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete, an age grouper, the first finisher, the last finisher. You never know who you're going to inspire.
Right.
It's like so many people are so cheering for you and they're so impressed by what you do. You tell them you're training for an Ironman, you tell them you're training for a triathlon, and you inspire people. And it's it's not just the pros, it's every single person who starts that commitment. You just never know how that is going to really touch people's lives.
So how do you see this race playing out? We have an amazing women's field. The fact that you came here, you'd run 1 marathon, you'd done 1 Ironman. Everybody's talking Taylor Knibb, who has done 0 of either. You think that plays a role?
I really believe the sport's changed. I mean, we've seen it. It's becoming a younger person's sport. It's like that speed that you carry over into Ironman is significant because Ironman does make you slower. It's
right.
Like you have to be a big endurance animal. So these days you have better nutrition, you have better equipment, there's so much more knowledge out there. So for somebody to come in and do this as their first ever Ironman, I'm never going to say they can't do it because things have changed. Back in the day it was a little different. Literally Karen Smyes sort of came from short course,
right.
Being a world champion at short course and came over to Ironman. And then for me, I came over at a much later age. I was 35, 36, but I'd been racing since I was 18. So my triathlon age is really old.
And you had 8-time Ironman World Champion guiding you.
No, exactly. If you want to do well, if you're smart, you go with somebody who has absolutely the most amount of knowledge because you've got to take advantage so quickly. So it's so different now. You're getting these younger athletes coming in with all that sports knowledge, the equipment, the running shoes alone help not only making you faster, but the recovery.
Right.
It's like Craig Alexander and I were out running today and we were talking about it, when you get to right before maybe 16 miles in the marathon, the technology of the old school shoes your quads were like getting stabbed by like little daggers. Running
Right.
down Palani was horrendous. Every step was like having someone put a hammer right on your quad and smash it as hard as they could. But you know, it's so different. The technology is so different. It just makes it easy to keep up the pace that you need. You recover quickly, so you're not going to get that wear and tear that you would in the old traditional shoes. So there's so much that has changed. So, I mean, if I was in Vegas right now, I think Taylor Knibb has every opportunity and the ability and the commitment and the desire to win this race. But does 5 other athletes, and maybe 6, maybe 7.
I looked at Chelsea Sodaro, who's won.
like I met Chelsea Sodaro when she was doing short course.
Yes.
And, you know, she just has this tenacity, and you know, she knows how to get the job done. I mean, and you know, when you're coming as defending champion, there's always more pressure.
Right.
Always more pressure. But you know, she seems very relaxed, very comfortable right now. So don't count her out.
Annie Hogg.
I mean,
they both have
absolutely
won here, yeah.
Unbelievable that she can now say she's probably faster than she ever has at 40.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely ridiculous. Like, her bike strength has improved so much, and her run is
second level.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's funny with Annie, watching her at the age of 40 win that in Ibiza, win that European Open.
Yeah, and you know what I love about her? She's totally committed to triathlon. She's at basically the German, what we would call the Institute of Sport in Australia. So she's at what's the German Institute of Sport. Yeah, like focused 100%. Concentrates, no outside interference. That's her passion. And then, you know, you look at Laura Philipp, another German, like absolutely amazing, talented. Got a penalty here last year and still managed
got 4th
in a very competitive field.
Right.
So that in itself, and you know, she's going to have the fire, even more fire. It's like my coaches always used to tell me, it's like, don't ever fire up any of your competitors.
No.
Because that's just going to make them just a little bit more motivated. I mean, we're all motivated, but you know, I had a run coach that like always inspired me and like always like had self-belief. And then I had a school teacher who was like, oh, she's going to quit. She's a girl. She's going to get a boyfriend. She's never going to continue this. And, you know, even at the Olympics, I had an article written about me the day before, basically, saying that I wasn't Olympic medal caliber material. You know, it's like, if you want to fire me up. Thanks for the extra motivation.
What I love about this is Annie Hogg in the 2012 Olympics, Daniela Ryf in the
Daniela, I mean, she knows how to win.
No question.
Fantastic Roth record. Holy cow. Mark Allen probably would have maybe just beat her. You know, in his last win that he had was as fast as she went.
I know. And Lisa Norden.
Lisa Norden, I mean, if she can come in here like fresh and uninjured, you know, we haven't seen what she's capable of doing.
Even though back in the day, she trained with Annie Hogg, she trained with Daniela Ryf, we know she can. She had a sprint finish for the Olympic gold with Nicola Spirik.
Yeah.
We know she can run. She's never run under close to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that certainly is attainable for somebody with her talent.
Yeah, you know, you just got to have the right day. And of course, Kat Matthews.
Yep.
Like, I always tell people, it's like, I want everyone to have the best race, because when you are winning a lot, and everyone wants to, especially in Australia, they want to like knock you down a little bit. We call it the tall poppy syndrome. So it's like everyone wants to win, and it's not who trained harder.
Nope.
Everyone trains hard. That used to like really irritate me. Oh, that athlete trains so much harder. I'm like, whoa. Every single athlete who gets on that start line,
here, they're trained hard.
They train hard, and sometimes it's just a little bit of luck. Sometimes it's like it's your day, the magic happens.
Right.
And sometimes it's like you're sucking it up, but you're winning. You know, you just never know. It's like to align the stars and get everything perfect, particularly in this race on Saturday, because there's 6 or 7 athletes that could win this race. Like, absolutely amazing. Like, this is history breaking, the fact that we have an all-women's field. Everyone's from weeks now, have been talking about all the women athletes. So it's going to be epic. And this field, like everyone talks about, oh, this is the best field we have. I've heard so many races. This is by far the best women's field we've ever seen at an Ironman distance.
Usually you're looking at 2, 3, maybe 4 potential winners. And you've got
Usually like maybe only 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the podium for the last 5 years, there's a lot of common names that are like in there.
Lord Lucy, Annie,
Yeah.
always.
It's like,
Daniela.
Laura Phillip, Daniela. It's
Right.
like, it's just, there's consistency, right? We always know there's athletes that are going to be consistency, but who's going to be that athlete that we don't expect? There's always an athlete. Like, who's going to
Fenella.
wake up in the morning and not show up on the start line? Like, we really
Chrissy,
we really haven't had any people pull out of this field.
No, that's the thing. We never, people always ask me, who do you pick? I'm like, I want to see who starts. Because I remember 2010, no one would have ever figured anybody's going to win besides Chrissy Wellington. She won 3 in a row, and there's her bike on race day, and no Chrissy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. So you don't know until we see who shows up tomorrow
No,
morning.
usually I like to make a prediction once they start running.
Oh, good. Why jump in too early?
No, it's like, okay, that was a good swim, that was a good bike. Okay, let's see who went too hard on the bike. Let's see who maybe isn't feeling as good, screwed up a little bit on their nutrition. But like, who's pushing through the field? Like last year, like
You could see Chelsea right away.
was like,
charging.
oh my goodness, it's like she's running so well. Like, those girls like better take notice.
And my favorite is she would slow down at the aid station. I'm like, oh no, she's going to start walking. But she was doing it to get fluid in.
Yeah, very calculated. And,
Totally
And
calculated.
that told me a lot about her.
Professional.
Just the fact that she was prepared to stay committed to the fact that she needed to work on her nutrition, and she had a strategy in place, and she stayed on top of it the entire run.
Love it. And you still love racing.
You know I love racing, Bob. It's one of those things. It's like, this week, every year this time, I'm like, oh, maybe I should do an Ironman. And then I'm like, no, I love to.
We like sprints.
I like Olympic distance and sprints.
Yeah.
I raced like last week.
Yep.
Yeah, so absolutely love it. And I think that's probably a little bit what I'm a little bit more proud of, the fact that I still find motivation to want to go line up at a start line, because we don't see a lot of professionals after they finish their career racing. And it's hard because year after year, you've got to find your why. Year after year, you've got to try to stay injury free. And,
Exactly.
As soon as I get a little cocky, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good. I can run a little faster. Like, don't do it. Don't do it, because every time I do it, then I'm injured.
Thank you for taking so much time. Always a treat to chat with you.
No, Bob, no, seriously, thank you for everything that you've done for the sport, what you did for me, what you've done for the challenge athletes. And you have impacted so many athletes in so many ways. And I know you don't do it for the thanks. You do it because you're like me, you're passionate about triathlon.
Yes, we are.
I'm taking the time right now to say thank you.
You are so welcome. Having you part of our world is the absolute best. Poncho Man, take us out.
A-L-O-H-A, a little aloha in our day. Spread a little aloha around the world, 'cause it's breakfast with Bob.
And Poncho Man.